So we were talking about the SI units, right? The seven base units. Well, from the seven base units, you can combine certain ones in order to measure something else, right? And so these are called derived units because it's not just one unit, it's got two units. One of the simplest one and the first one that we're gonna go over is called density. Okay, so it's gonna be a combination of a mass unit and a volume unit. And specifically, density is a measure of a substance mass to volume ratio. Okay, so simply to get the density of something, you take its mass, divide by its volume, right? And so the density of an object, you guys have an idea of what that word means, but at the end of the day, it will determine whether the substance will sink or float in another, right? So if the substance is less dense, it's gonna float, okay? And the more dense one, will sink. Okay, so all you have to do is take the object's mass and you divide by the object's volume. Okay, so that gets us to two types of properties that you guys should know. Intensive property versus extensive property. So an intensive property is a characteristic that is independent of the amount of substance. Right? So density is an intensive property, as in it doesn't matter how much um, substance there is, the density stays the same, right? So the density of water, for example, has a really nice value of 1 gram per milliliter. Okay, so it doesn't matter whether you have a cup of water or a whole, gallon of water. Its density is still the same, right? And that's because you have the ratio of mass over volume. So even if you increase the amount, then the mass increases and so does the volume. So both the numerator and denominator are increasing at the same time. So the density is going to stay the same, right? An extensive property would be the opposite of that, right? It will be dependent on the amount of substance. And extensive property are when you just have one unit. So if you just have a mass unit, like kilogram, well, of course, if you have more stuff, you're going to have, more mass, right? So mass is an extensive property because it does depend on how much substance there is. So you guys probably have heard of the riddle, right? This old riddle, which weighs more, a ton of bricks or a ton of feathers, right? Well, obviously they're both a ton, so they weigh the same, right? So here's a new riddle for you, written by yours truly. Which is more dense, 1 ton of bricks or 3 tons of brick? They're the same, right? The density, whether it's 1 ton of bricks or 3 tons of bricks, is going to be the same. Okay. Okay. So let's do an example where we are calculating density here. Okay. So let's read this problem together, and then I'm going to walk you through how to calculate the density. Okay. So a man receives a platinum ring from his fiance. Okay, I'm liking this, right? Very progressive, right? The man is being proposed to, and before the wedding, he notices that the ring feels a little light for its size, and so he decides to determine its density. Okay, so the guy's got some trust issues, right? So he places the ring on a balance and finds that it has a mass of 3.15 gram. He then finds that the ring displaces 0.233 cubic centimeters of water. Is the ring made of platinum? Okay. So when you read any long problems, okay, I want you to pick out the numbers that are relevant to what we're trying to find, right? So we know that density is mass over volume, right? D is equal to M over V. So is 3.15 grams going to be relevant? Sure, that's your mass, right? And then what is this other number? 0.233, and it's cubic centimeters. So you guys all know that that cube, right? Centimeter by itself is a distance, right? But it's three-dimensional, so it's a length times width times height. So we know that centimeter cube is actually a volume, isn't it? Okay. So to find the density, what we have to do is take 3.15 grams and we divide by 0.233 cubic centimeters of water. Okay, so what do we get? 13.5 grams per cubic centimeter, right down here. Okay, so now the question asks, is this ring made of platinum? Well, at this point, we have to look up what is the density of platinum. Okay, and for such pieces of information, it's okay to use Google here. That's fine. So I'm going to just Google the density of platinum, and Google tells me it's 21.45 grams per cubic centimeter. 21.45. Okay, that's going to be very different than what we have, right? Okay, I'm trying to figure out how to get back to our slide here. Sorry about that. Okay, so 21.45. We calculated 13.5. So the ring that she's giving him is a lot less dense than platinum is. So it's definitely not platinum, right? 13.5. I don't know what that is, right?